time for our last kitchen table astronomy session with Hampshire College astronomer Dr. Salman Hamid, Mr. Universe from Kainaat Studios of 2025. We will continue this in 2026. And it was a rough weekend on so many different levels with what happened at Brown University and what happened in Australia and what happened with the Rhiners. Oh, shocking. So we're going to give people a little positive oasis of some of the more exciting and positive stories that ground us in the fact that we are but blips on a radar, a grain of sand in a giant beach that is the universe. What are some of the stories that you want to talk about from 2025?
Well, first of all, I want to mention that if people want to hear astronomy on tap, then there is an an event tomorrow, Tuesday evening at New City Brewery in East Hampton, where this is an informal gathering, and there'll be two talks. One of them is by Peter Hartman, which is about the eternal question, where is that thing? So if you want to know how astronomers figure that out.
How far away things are in the sky.
Or where they are located.
Yeah.
And the other talk, I'm giving another talk over there, and the other talk is about who owns the moon? Is it Elon Musk? Is it Bezos? Is it US? Is it China?
Is it Laurie Anderson, who also brings up this fabulous question at an installation at Mass MoCA that I have pitched many times when Laurie Anderson's around, that we would love to go there with her. I idolize her, first of all, as an artist, but that particular immersive virtual reality exhibit is a great piece of art.
It's incredible, and that was going to be my end of my talk. Is going to be, yes, it is Laurie Anderson that owns the moon.
So that's some exciting future astronomy stories.
Yes, and it's from 7 to 9. Okay. So 7 to 9 p.m. at New City Brewery. So come over there. We'll have fun.
Maybe I'll come after Kung Fu with PAX.
Yes, do come. And so that would be a lot of fun. But I thought, let's talk about this year. And I picked up some of the things that, in forms of questions that I had, we talked about some of those things, and these may not be considered as globally as the biggest astronomy stories, but certainly on Fabulous 413, these are the most fabulous stories of 2025.
Yes.
And so my first question related to that was, is there an official 413 galaxy?
There is now.
Yes.
If you remember back to April 13th, when we had the first ever Fabulous 413 NEPM 413 day, you gifted us.
Yes, and that is NGC 413. And this is a galaxy which is located close to around 200 million light years away. And just a perfect distance, I would say.
Because by the time they realize that we own them, we'll be long gone.
That is correct. Or who owns this galaxy? That will be another talk, we'll give. And so this galaxy, and interestingly, it's actually visible these days, but it's very faint. You will need a telescope and things like that. But it's a faint galaxy. In fact, this is how it was described. It is extremely faint, pretty small, very little extended. And I was
just like the show,
just like 413. So, and it's a spiral galaxy. So I was like, we spiral here, both in and out of insanity. And so this is actually a good galaxy. So yes. So the question, is there an official 413, Fabulous 413 galaxy? And it is NGC 413, New General Catalog Galaxy number 413.
We love that. And again, it's not really official because the International Star Registry is a scam. Don't buy a star. Although I have been, one of my favorite astronomy things in science fiction that I've been reading is the Three-Body Problem book series, and the gifting of actual stars, but with meaning something, is a big part of that book series. So we don't technically, but we've incorporated it as we love that galaxy more than others here in the 413.
Okay, let's put it this way. We are in the United States here. And the next question actually is going to be related to that. But what I was going to say was just because officially something is not given to us does not mean we cannot take it.
Oh, yes.
And so NGC 413 is our official galaxy. Yeah. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
And this is the last Mr. Universe that you are watching. Okay, second question. So this is, again, as I said, a little bit related to it. And the question was, can a superpower, a country that has been a superpower, shoot itself in its foot? And first of all, the good question is that, do countries have feet?
Yeah.
And I don't know. But it can still, even without feet, it can still certainly shoot itself in the foot by, for example, canceling a lot of the programs, a lot of the telescopes that are planning on going up, also cutting down a major fraction of its aid. So, for example, NASA's funding cut by close to about 25%, but the science part of its funding cut by close to around 50%. A lot of the NASA employees losing about 2,000 high-level employees, and overall losing 1/5 of its workforce, and which is under no pressure, which is under sort of like no external pressure in the sense that, oh well, there is a collapse in economy or something like that, but a decision being taken to just cut down its cutting edge science, and also to eliminate its DEI, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Office of NASA, modifying the website dedicated to when the telescope, Vida Rubin telescope, which just actually opened, its official website had things about Vida Rubin, the astronomer, the legendary astronomer, talking about the struggle she had as a woman in the field of astronomy to modify that website to that level. I think the answer is yes. A country can shoot itself in the foot.
Well, we know our vice president who is now deceased, can shoot his friend in the face. So I do think that the country could shoot itself in the foot. And with NASA being such a global brand, you see people wearing NASA merch all over the world because what NASA has meant to science and exploration has been inspirational. And
Right.
To cut it for no reason other than big cuts are what we do unilaterally, maybe we did shoot ourselves in the foot.
And a lot of the prominent scientists and others have come from diverse backgrounds, and there are a lot of people that actually have been underserved here in the US, which need sort of encouragement, diversity, and things like that. To actually remove that, it's just bizarre and it's terrible. But I guess, and I'm still not done with that, because I think the shooting in the foot is being continued, because you can also see that not just in astronomy, but of course RFK Jr., for example, is what he's doing in terms of the vaccine reactions to that, or vaccine mandate, or removing the vaccine mandates and things like that. So that is happening, but I think it is connected not too far from people like Avi Loeb, who we have talked about, and we always have to say the Harvard astronomer, right? Because we always have to bring up that. Because there is a larger level of trust in science that gets eroded with that. So that's what RFK Jr. has done in terms of the vaccine. So even if you do think, vaccines are really important for measles and for all different types of things. Forget about COVID. We're talking about measles because there has been a recent outbreak in, I think, South Carolina right now. But right now you would not know if there is a if there is a recommendation that comes out from the health services, the federal health services, whether you should trust it or not, because of the rhetoric that has come from RFK Jr. and the kind of panel, the people that he has put on panels. You don't know what to think. So it's not that, you have suddenly become irrational, or people around you, but what can you trust? I think it removes that, and which in the age of disinformation, which we do live in, it really damages that. And I think in the same way, I think, because we want to stay close to astronomy, Avi Loeb's claims about, for example, this interstellar visitor, the comet that is coming in, to call that sort of like an alien spacecraft, even though almost all scientists, and especially all scientists who work on that comet, actually say, no, it's just a comet. But it undermines the way science is done. And so I don't think right now we are at that stage, but claims like this from people like Avi Loeb actually overall damages the way people think about science, the way science is done, the way we build trust in science. Not that science is always correct or no, but there are ways in which expertise does matter. But both RFK Jr. and Avi Loeb are undermining that, and that will have long-term consequences, and the US should look at its foot. All right, so the other, I think one of the most fascinating things was what came first, a black hole or a star? And this is the question that astronomers have been grappling with about sort of like, that supermassive black holes, which exist almost in all galaxies, although recently there have been coming up that not all galaxies, but certainly in most large galaxies, the centers are populated by these supermassive black holes, much bigger, sort of like, about a few million to a billion times the mass of our sun. And so the big question was, well, did the stars first formed and the center collapsed to form a supermassive black hole, or the black holes came first and around it the galaxy formed? And that's a fascinating question. It looks like, and especially this year, that there are strong hints that probably the black hole came first. And a couple of things regarding that, but to me, the most interesting part was James Webb Space Telescope detected these little red dots. These are the galaxies that are very small. They're just sort of and they are some of the earliest objects in the universe, and we don't know exactly what is their nature. And it looks like those are some of those things where the supermassive black hole is outshining the full galaxy, and it's much bigger relative to the size of the galaxy, and so that might be the answer. But more interestingly, although this is pretty interesting already, I don't know where more is going to come in, but more interestingly, the astronomers found a little red dot analog, a little bit sort of later in the universe, and where they're suggesting that we may have found a new type of an object, which is a black hole star, which is a really large star which has ended up as a black hole, but it's still surrounded by the outer gases around it. And they think, so this is a new type of object which we didn't know exist, and maybe something like this may have been the progenitor of the little red dots.
And maybe the supermassive black holes at the center of these galaxies, that's super cool.
That is.
Now, if we can only figure out what came first, the chicken or the egg, that's not astronomers' problem.
Yeah, that is correct. I was thinking about, I think it is the chicken, but no, I'm not going to take sides on that. Okay, so I thought this was sort of the farthest parts of the galaxy. Now let's of the universe. Now let's come close to us. And I think one of the questions is when planets form. We are finding there are over 6,000 exoplanets have been discovered. And one of the big questions in astronomy is that do planets, where we find them, do they form there or do they migrate? As an immigrant myself, I was like, hey, migration isn't bad. But that's a big question, because if planets migrate, so for example, some of the earliest exoplanets that were discovered, that was really surprising, because you had large Jupiter-sized planets orbiting its star very close distance, like their orbit would take a few days. And that was extremely surprising, because we have a very good theory of solar system formation, but which says that Jupiter-like planets would be formed a little bit farther away. And so how do you bring them closer? Well, they migrate, right? And so then there is a whole thing comes in that if they migrate, what happens, how there are perturbations, does it disturb the other orbits, and so on and so forth. So we know that at least some planets, in some solar systems, planets do migrate. We know that. But do they always migrate? And we talked about a protoplanetary system called WISPIT 2b. We actually talked about it recently, where astronomers found a protoplanetary disk. So this is the material around a star, very young star, a few million years old. And this is one of those cases where it's so young that the disk has not been cleared out by the planets. And so that is well and good. Astronomers have detected many protoplanetary disks. And astronomers have also detected cases where the planets have just cleared out the disk. But they had never found a case where the planet is in the process of clearing out the disk, and you still have basically the disk around on both sides of this new planet, meaning it is like a ring. And this is exactly what astronomers found in WISPIT 2b. They found a gap in the protoplanetary disk, and they suspected, oh, there must be a planet inside. And then they used telescopes to actually look inside the gap, and they found a protoplanet.
It's amazing. It's like we were saying, it's like a sonogram. When there is a fetus in utero, you get to see this development, and this is something scientists hadn't seen until this year.
And so this, in some sense, some people call it sort of like the missing link. But importantly, this shows that, well, the planet actually formed in the place where it is forming, because it just cleared out the material in a ring shape in the protoplanetary disk. So this is one of those cases where when we do science, when we do astronomy or whatever, there are multiple types of questions. And there are multiple types of evidences. So we have a theory of the formation of the solar system. Then we have some evidence that's coming in. Well, here are all these different types of exoplanets that have formed. And then you try to sort it out. And this is the type of evidence that tells you, okay, well, at least in some cases, planets are there where they formed. They did not migrate. So this is, Monty, that's you. You did not.
I didn't migrate. My grandparents did.
There you And so this is again piecing together evidence to actually lead to our understanding of how planets formed and potentially how our own solar system formed.
Nice.
And within that, I think one of the most exciting discoveries of this year, we also talked about it recently, but how did life start here on Earth? Did it start through the RNA, the ribonucleic acid, which we think sort of like, DNA is the main molecule, but RNA is also helpful. But we think that maybe life may have started through RNA. Or people suggested, well, maybe the metabolism came first, and first the DNA came and then the RNA. Well, those are unsolved questions. One of the biggest questions. We don't exactly know how life started here on Earth. But the recent results regarding the samples that were brought by NASA's mission OSIRIS-REx from the asteroid Bennu, it brought back samples, and what it showed was that, first of all of the nucleobases that are part of both the DNA and the RNA, so A, T, C, G, and U, these are the links that connect the DNA and the RNA molecules. All 5 of those are available or are detected in this sample. You also have 14 of the 20 amino acids that life uses. So pretty much like life uses 20 amino acids. It could use more. It doesn't. 14 of those 20 have been detected in this sample from this asteroid Bennu. And then the question was like, what about sugars? So scientists recently announced the discovery of glucose that provides energy and ribose. And ribose is, again, the key thing for ribose nucleic acid, RNA, and the detection of RNA and a non-detection of deoxyribose, so this is the DNA part, the D part of that, suggests that perhaps, possibly, life may have started through the RNA. This is called the RNA world hypothesis, rather than through metabolism.
So another chicken and egg story, but this one is an RNA egg and a DNA chicken, or an RNA chicken and a DNA egg, depending on where you fall on the chicken egg.
And we still don't know whether that is true or not, but this, again, what I'm trying to emphasize here is sort of like, is the process by which scientists try to find answers. It's not just one aha discovery that people think, or going the opposite way as well, but rather there is a process to that, and there are a lot of different pieces that add up to those things. They don't just come up, for example, claims regarding UFOs or things like that. I don't get it, I don't understand what that is up in the sky. It must be an alien spacecraft. That is not usually how science works. And so these are all these cases, and there have been other. So these were the key science things that I wanted to mention. There have been others, like, dark energy, the mysterious thing. Maybe it's changing. Is it? We don't know. these are newer results. There were also a lot of talk about potential, like, habitable planets, K2-18b at some point, like, it has water or it has molecules that may be more like, it turns out probably not. So there are a lot of unsure things, part of science, a lot of Three-Eye Atlas, the comet that is actually right now visible from the Earth, that is coming in. It's doing what a comet from outside a solar system would do, meaning to say pass very quickly, and it is. But sure, fine. But these were some of the stories that I had. Unless you have another question, I have one last thing to say. So should I go or
You should go.
Okay, so then the biggest question, the most important question, I left it to the end, and that is, what was the best astronomy song of the year?
Oh.
And I have to say, this is I would say my friend, but he's not. He's never written back to me. No, but Josh Ritter, who's a wonderful songwriter, and he's been here. He's going to be back again in February at Iron Horse, and I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
And his song "Truth Is a Dimension," both invisible and blinding.
I love it.
It's a lovely song. So if you haven't listened to this song, just listen to it. It is. So again, Josh Ritter is such a fantastic storyteller, and here he talks about sort of like going out and setting up his telescope and looking at the system 611 in the Magellanic Cluster. Okay, so that's a fictitious, but that's a songwriter. Okay,
Poetic
I'm not
license.
gonna pick sort of like on that stuff, but it is so beautiful, both in terms of thinking in the context of science, of why we do science, and the love of the sky and the night sky and things like that, but also love in general. And I think it does a beautiful thing. And so please do listen to it. I will just quote one couplet from it. I was filled with revelation, both infinite and finite, that filtered down the telescope, encoded in the starlight. And it's just, it's just a lovely song. And I think there is no astronomy song better than Josh Ritter's "Truth Is a Dimension, both invisible and blinding."